Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for inviting us to be here today. My name is Anna Eden and I am the Service Manager for Young Dementia UK. I've come today with Mick, Angie and Larry, who will talk more about their personal experience of living with young onset dementia. Things can always go wrong when you come to give a talk, and one of the difficulties is that Larry has been caught up in traffic. So he will join us as he joins us. He's in Headington, so he must get here quite soon. Oh, he's here. Fantastic. That's great. Larry, well done.
Hello. It's gracious to be with you. Sorry I'm late.
Do you want to grab
Come and have a seat.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi Mick, hi Angie. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay, don't worry. So I've just literally started. So what we thought we'd do today is for me to introduce a little bit about young onset dementia, a little bit about the organisation that I work for, to show you a film that we made last year, which is hearing directly from people with young onset dementia about what helps them live as well as they can do. And after that, Mick and Ange will tell you a bit about their story, and then Larry will tell you a bit about his story, and then there's time for questions afterwards. I hope that feels okay with you. Good. So, the first thing is, what is young onset dementia? I guess you probably know, but it's when somebody is diagnosed or has symptoms under the age of 65. So some people think that young means teenagers, but no, it means under 65. And why is it different to people who are older? Very often, mostly, people who are under 65 are fit and well, fit and active, and they have plans for their future. They will more than likely be working, so having to stop work is a major impact on their life, obviously financially as well as socially and routines and everything else that work gives you. Very often the partner of the person also has to give up work, so that's a double whammy in terms of income, because they need to look after the person who has dementia. People with young onset dementia tend to have much rarer conditions. There are up to 100 different causes for young onset dementia. Only 30% of them will have Alzheimer's. That means that getting diagnosed is much more difficult. So there's a whole range of different symptoms that people have, and we'll hear about some of them. But it can take, on average, 4 years to get a diagnosis. Very often it's dismissed as depression or some other condition, and it's really hard for people to go through those years. And having a diagnosis is a hugely positive thing. It enables people to make decisions about their lives, enables them to plan, work out, make the most of those years. So waiting for diagnosis is not a good thing. People with young onset often have children who they're still responsible for. If they're under 65, if they're in their 40s or 50s, they're probably the age of your parents, or maybe some of you. People have young children, and that has a huge impact. They have quite often elderly parents who they are also responsible for. So the dynamics of having dementia young is very different from if you're in your 80s. Very rarely will people know other people with the same condition. So it can be a very isolating experience. One of the things that people have often told us is that meeting other people, hearing that there are other people of their own age group who have the similar sort of condition, makes a huge difference. And again, we'll hear a bit more about that. So Young Dementia UK was set up, we're just coming up to our 20th year. We were the first, and for many years, the only organisation focusing directly on the people with young onset dementia and their families. We started by doing a research and finding out what people wanted, and those people wanted support for the person with dementia. So we set up it was called one-to-one support, individual support, linking a support worker to one person with dementia for a morning or an afternoon a week. And that has been really our key support service for 20 years. Last year, I think we gave 7,000 hours of support to people in Oxfordshire. This is all Oxfordshire. Through that support, and those people do anything and everything that the person with dementia wants to do. So they can go walking, they can go shopping, they can do cooking, they can just enjoy themselves. But they can also write books, speak at public events like this, do all sorts of exciting, wonderful things. As a result of supporting the people with dementia, it became very clear that the family members also wanted support. And so we set up something that was called a family service. It's now called Young Onset Dementia Advisors. So everybody in Oxfordshire who has young onset is allocated a dementia advisor to guide through the whole process. So from the issues that are raised at diagnosis through to how to live as well as possible, to maybe dealing with some of the more difficult effects of dementia as it progresses. As I said before, quite a number of people, a lot of people have said they want to meet each other. And over the last few years, we've developed various groups, opportunities for people to come together. And last year, I think we had 80 such groups running at different times through the year. Around Oxfordshire. Oxfordshire is a very rural population. It's hard for people to get there. So we work in Banbury and Abingdon and wherever. One of those groups has formed so that the role is to educate and inform. And that's where these guys have come from. It's called PACE, Positively... oh no, I'm not going to be able to remember. Educating activists, consultants and educators.
Advocates,
consultants and educators.
Something like that.
So they will be here. And then more recently we have set up a network, and that's the leaflet over there, for people right across the country who are living with young onset, interested in young onset, or a professional working with young onset dementia, to try to ensure that the services that are available in Oxfordshire, which is a pretty fortunate county, can be replicated across the country. It's a real postcode lottery where you are when you're diagnosed. So we would love you all to join that network. It's free. You can just sign in online or you can send a form back. But actually having a body of health professionals as part of that, it's fantastic. So
Here.
we want you. So I'm going to stop there, I think. That's it. And introduce you to the film, which is just about people living with young onset, talking about what helps them live well. Go to up here. That's it. Perfect.
I was a musician in the forces back in the 70s, and I still play. I play with a number of brass bands. Now I'm having trouble with sometimes reading the music and getting things in the right place, and I've lost my alphabet and my numbers. And so I don't know when they say, right, go from letter J, I'm searching the page to find the letter J, but the people that sit on either side of me, they're there to sort of point their finger, I'm going from there, Chris, or we're taking it from here. So they're very supportive. And I find generally that I tell people quite early and up front that I do have dementia. And then the majority of people are then very supportive to help you out?
I've always been a biker. Always. Around the time of diagnosis, I had an accident and the bike was written off. It wasn't related to, but it just happened to coincide. So once I realised that I wasn't going to die or become a mindless body, I started to rebuild it. So over a period of 2 years, and it took me a long time, I rebuilt the bike. And I still ride it with pride.
When I was first diagnosed, I had no support. I get my support now from a day centre that's run in Flintshire. I used to be a landscape gardener, so I like gardening, and we've got a little garden at the day centre as well, where I can go out and potter about out there. I don't think I'd be able to do it without support. Support enables you, takes all the troubles away, and you know the things are getting sorted out for, you know, there's people watching, so that you're making sure you're okay and nothing's worrying you, so then you can carry on. Just enjoying your life, really.
The support that I get is informal from other people with dementia who I meet at these sort of conferences and events, and from communicating with people on Twitter, sharing ideas, blogs, Facebook. It's not that people are helping me to do things physically. It's just I know it's there. I know people are thinking the same. I know Young Dementia is doing stuff.
I'm very fortunate. I get a lot of support. Some of which I've had to go out and devise myself because there was nothing where I lived. No support groups for young onset dementia. My biggest support is my dog, and she comes with me. I love camping, and she comes with me and gives me the confidence. Before my diagnosis, I would just throw everything in the car, take off, find a field. Obviously, I have to be a bit more sensible these days. So she gives me the support I need to go out there, put up my tent and just be in the outdoors.
I've got 3 grandchildren, and they'll now obviously get the diagnosis. The diagnosis really is given to both my wife and myself, and I guess we both require support, but we also support each other. So I care for my wife, and she cares for me.
Living on my own, it can be a very lonely experience having dementia, and having other people that I know are going through exactly the same type of situation as myself is very comforting, because it just takes away that isolation. Talking is the best remedy for not bottling all your anxieties and fears up inside yourself. And I say to everybody, talk about how you're feeling, talk to your family and friends about how you're feeling, because if you don't talk, no one knows how to support you.
I'm a very independent person who's always avoided support groups. But I'm also someone who's always thrived on a challenge. Before being diagnosed with dementia, I was thinking. It took a long time to not knowing. Thankfully, I decided to give all support on offer a try. It had to be worth trying. And now, for me, with appropriate support, I am very grateful to be able to take up new challenges and opportunities, which for me are just simply life-giving.
Okay, let's move on and let me introduce Mick and Angie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'm Mick, obviously. This is Angie, my wife.
Can you hear?
Can you hear me okay? So we've been married for nearly 25 years. And so both second marriages. And we've got 4 boys between us. And how many grandchildren we got?
9
grandchildren. And so basically what we did about 4 years ago, Angie was forgetting a lot of things, and she wasn't watching television, and if she did, she never understood what was being said. And she started calling my mobile phone a watch, and my watch a mobile phone, and things like that. So we thought, oh, we better go off to the doctor. So we went off to the doctor, and when we was at the doctor's, they give us a test, showed us some symbols, and I asked Ange to draw a clock. Well, Ange, when she drew a clock, 6 was at the top, 12 was on the side. She just couldn't draw. I was dumbfounded, and so was Ange, I think, because she didn't know what a clock was. But anyhow, the doctor decided to send us off to Oxford to see a consultant, didn't he?
To the JR,
To the JR, and which we went through. Ange had a few tests, quite a few tests actually.
I had a two-top load of medications for 2 hours, didn't I?
Load of tests for 2 hours she had, and I was there to help her because obviously she's got to be tested, not me. So I think she's got a high IQ, but basically after all the tests and the brain scan, she was diagnosed with a progressive with the Semantic Dementia. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but basically it's a primary progressive aphasia, frontotemporal lobal degeneration, and it affects Angie's left side of her brain. There's also like a little bit associated with Pick's disease, if anybody's heard of that. And so she has, with semantic dementia, she has the progressive ability, she doesn't have the ability to remember the meaning of words, faces and objects. Our table in the room where we lay the table has become a bed. Envelopes, they become bags, and other things like that, isn't it, Ange?
Yeah, I really get up down because I don't remember it and I say things wrong, and it really upsets me when I'm saying things wrong, and that it really gets me upset, and that sort of is really bad with it, and I'm getting worse than what I was, because in February I was diagnosed 4 years. February's just gone, and I'm 61 now. And I worked at Marks and Spencer's for 30 years as a manager. And when I was working there, when they ask you, you have to do a lot of things like on computers and stuff, and I couldn't do it. So I thought, well, I'll just step down and just go to a normal person working there. But they didn't change me, and I still had to work with customers and that, and I couldn't do that because I couldn't remember things. So after 6 weeks I left. So I've been left 4 years in October.
Yeah, the expectation was basically that they didn't think or deal with her being a person suffering from dementia, knowing that she's got something wrong, and really, in fact, at some stages she was going to be disciplined for certain things which she hadn't got control of.
No. And it's a shame with people I see at Marks and Spencer's, and I don't know any of their names. I recognise some of their faces, but I don't know any of their names anymore. and stuff, which is really sad that when you don't know them, when I worked with them for so long.
Well, one of the good things that's happened in our lives, I suppose, is the fact that I got made redundant 2 years ago. So I took that opportunity not to go back to work anymore and become Angie's full-time carer, or husband and carer. I mean, we can still care for each other, whatever, you know. And Angie's become even more loving now. She's got this dementia. She loves everybody and everybody. She says hello to the babies we see, the dogs, the animals. She's just loving. And one of the things we got for ourselves, because we thought it would be good for Angie's dementia, is a dog. And, you know, that dog is one of the best things we've ever done, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it makes me walk with him, go with a dog, and I think it's good that I do walk in with him, because rather than otherwise I'll just sit down all the time because I keep feeling tired and stuff, and that's how it is. And my eyes keep shutting up a lot, my eyes do.
So since we've retired, basically, we've nearly gone out every day. We do something every day to make sure we try to do as many holidays as we can afford to do. And we just enjoy ourselves, don't we?
Yeah.
And part of the Young Dementia group, I mean, when we were at the hospital and we were diagnosed, Angie was diagnosed, basically we come out of the room and we knew nothing. We knew dementia, and what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to die? You know, that's the first thing you think, and how long are you going to live, and that.
And I like dancing.
So basically,
I do.
yeah.
I like dancing, and that is one thing that when I've been going to dementia things, that they got me into that, and it's really good, and I do like dancing.
But there was a young dementia representative at the hospital when we were being diagnosed, and out at the end of this and spoke to us and introduced us and asked would we like to become members of what goes on for support. And basically we've been supported, and through that we've met people like Larry, unfortunately. I'm joking. Larry likes his dancing and all that. So we go to a group once a month where we have a dance and we have a meal and we chat to each other. You know, you've got the carers, you've got the support workers, you've got we forget about all that. We just get on with life, don't we, Ange?
Yeah.
And that, you know, Ange, even though she's got dementia, you can see she dresses well. She's always trying different clothes on.
Gorgeous.
She always coordinates everything very well. She's got very good coordination. She still doesn't watch much television. In fact, the only thing she listens to is Tipping Point and Pointless. But
not that I know the answers, but I just
she likes to watch. But what she does do at home, she plays Sudoku. And I can't do it, she can, and she's brilliant at it, aren't you, Anne?
Yeah.
Come see some more.
Yeah.
Right to the grandchildren and how they interact with you.
Oh yeah, my grandchildren, because I've got 9. The oldest one is 16, and she started going to college. And the youngest, we've had 2 more this year. So we've got 2 that's one. So we've got 16. I do remember the name. I have to write it down. 16, 13. Got a boy that's 10, and then a girl 8, 7, 5. 3 is on Saturday, so we're sort of going to see her on Saturday, and then the others ain't 2 yet.
So one of the things we find, well, Ange finds a little bit hard now, is when the children come up and ask her, "Can you do this, Nanny?"
No, I don't understand.
She doesn't understand, but what we do now is, Ange says, "Well, tell me." And they actually, children know, and they explain to you, don't they? This is what we want done, Nanny.
Yeah.
And, you know.
It's a shame, though, what I don't, because of my children that I had. I don't remember what I did with them or anything, because that is something that I've forgotten about the long time ago. So it is sort of sad, but they're really good for me. So, and one of my sons, my oldest one, he'll be 40 next year, and he actually is supported through his work with dementia, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done some running and some going into ditches and that to help raise some money for dementia. So he's right behind his mum. Well, they all are. You know, they all support their mum.
And they got over £1,000 for dementia. They did. He did what he'd done, what he sorted, and that. So that was good for dementia.
But you know, really, if we hadn't met, I keep on about Young Dementia UK, but if we hadn't met them, we wouldn't have been going to the support groups which we do. And they're there to help us, and we complement each other there. We know each other's problems and experiences. And the other thing about dementia is, like Anna said, no one dementia is the same. Angie's got semantic dementia. We only know one other person that's got that. And
I do get bad headaches.
you get a lot of bad headaches, yeah.
So I have to have medication for my headaches.
There is no medication for Angie's actual disease, but
no, and I've had an injection recently because I've got pain here, and I had an injection here. And when I went to the Cassenden thing last month, I couldn't dance. No. And he always come to me because they ain't used to it, and he always say, always comes to me and say, "You're coming to dance," but I will be tonight.
Oh, good.
So we go for long walks. We went to Bournemouth recently and had lots of long walks with the dog, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we just go out and enjoy ourselves. I said every day, very many days we don't go out. We have a coffee every day in Costa's, anywhere else like that.
And it's our 25th wedding anniversary next month.
Hooray!
Next May. And we've already booked our holiday. We're going to Tenerife, aren't we?
We're going to Tenerife,
so we've booked it already.
So Ange finds it hard to do cooking, really, because she hasn't got the confidence to do it, although she could. And she does sometimes a microwave meal. If it's just basic, pricking the top of the thing and putting it in the microwave.
I forget how to do it, a lot of it, which is a shame.
I do most of the cooking, but Anne's still designing. I'm hard pressed to do that.
Hard pressed.
Yeah, but I don't mind ironing. I've been brought up to do ironing. So we do everything, don't we? We do clean the house together, take the dog out for walks together. We do most things together, don't we?
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do. And retiring early allowed me to be with Ange and experience a lot more, so we can do it young, just in case Ange can't do it later on.
And it's where I used to do the garden when he was at work, but I damaged my feet and all that. I can't do it because I kept catching myself.
Well, she actually was using a strimmer to strim the garden plants. And I can tell you she used to be 6 foot before she had that. No, so I wouldn't allow her to, when I was at work, that's when she did it. But we wouldn't do that anymore, so I do most of the garden. But she loves the garden, she loves the flowers in the garden and how we do it together, don't we? And you're very good again.
It's just I don't know what they're called, the gardens or anything, because that bloke the other day asked us.
Well, yesterday we went to the consultant just for a 9-monthly checkup.
Oh, yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah.
And the consultant asked Ange a couple of things, and he asked her what an elephant was. Ange couldn't remember what an elephant was. Even if she'd seen it, she probably wouldn't know what it was called. But she knows what in her mind, because we've been to Africa and seen real elephants, haven't we?
You said that.
Yeah.
I forget.
Yeah, so it is, things like buttons, she can't remember, that's just how it is, and we just battle it out together. If she says something wrong, I don't try to correct her all the time, but then she'll say, I don't know what it is, Mick, and we walk through it, and she'll ask me lots of questions, and we get to the answer in the end, don't we? Most of the time. Sometimes I have to give up, but not very often. Not very often. It's all right, isn't it, Ange? Yeah.
Okay, that's.
So is that okay? Is that
helping? Good morning. One of the things that with Angie and Mick just recently, we wrote sort of like a song cycle, like a rock opera together, called Turtle Song. Turtle Song. And so another thing that's really brilliant is singing. Are you up for it? Well, I'll go to a singing group, Anna knows about it, and the lady who's the facilitator does sort of call and response, so she teaches us the words and with the music, rehearses us for it, and then, so that's what I'll do. So, and the reason we'll do this is because when I first knew that there was something awfully wrong, I was on a boat. So I'm going to sing you a song about a boat, and you're all going to join in, and it goes like this. From Liverpool to Birkenhead. Join in when you get it. From Birkenhead to Liverpool. From Liverpool to Birkenhead. From Birkenhead to Liverpool. From Liverpool to Birkenhead. From Birkenhead to Liverpool. And that boat does exactly the same in reverse. It goes from Birkenhead to Liverpool. From Liverpool to Birkenhead. From Birkenhead to Liverpool. From Liverpool to Birkenhead. From Birkenhead to Liverpool. From Liverpool to Birkenhead. And you know, it's brilliant. I go to this singing group and we do all breathing exercises, moving our diaphragms up and down and all that. And at the end of it, I'll get a turbocharged brain because I've oxygenated my brain so much. And the singing kind of jiggles things around and it keeps me going because I'm a proper handful now. If you were looking after me, you wouldn't want to. And the thing that's different between me and Ange is I live alone. So my marriage ended. And I was married 25 years. And I married a girl from Bootle. So I was living in Liverpool. And we looked after her mum till she died. And she had dementia. She had Alzheimer's type dementia. And then when I started getting symptoms, my missus thought I was just mucking about at first. You know, she thought it was at first it was, you could laugh at it because it was a bit of a lark. But when I forgot Valentine's Day, she was most unhappy about that. When I forgot her birthday, she thought I was doing it deliberately. And what happened was that she began to think I was doing it on purpose because I didn't like her anymore, which is awful because of course I still loved her. And she wound up marrying my best friend. So my best friend used to come round, his name's Mikey, he used to come round to give me a hand because I was just falling apart and I couldn't, there's all things I couldn't do. I got finished up from work and then, oh, it's awful. So I had 3 school-aged children at that time. And the reason I taught you Liverpool to Birkenhead is what I found out. I was on the boat going to work and I couldn't recognise where I got to get off. So I just went backwards and forwards, you know, until eventually I went up to somebody and I said, can you put me off, you know, at Pier Head? I've got to go to work. And well, when I asked them, we were still in Birkenhead. So we had to go across again. And they finished me up from work. So when I got symptoms, I was in work, I had a bloody good job, I had a mortgage the size of the British national debt, because it's like that, you know, bloody like that. And now I don't have a mortgage at all, because I lost my house, and I lost my family, and I wound up living in one of those garages with a blew up and over door, you know. I was homeless. And when I met Anna, I was living in student accommodation because at Ruskin College they take non-traditional students, and I was homeless, and the person who was helping me got me to apply at Ruskin College, and I lived in student accommodation, and that's where you met me, wasn't it? And they arranged for me to get a care assistant whose name was Jessie, and at the supper club where we go, there's going to be one tonight. There was another lady there called Claire, and Claire and Jessie got me up. I'd had a stroke and I was in a wheelchair, and I've recovered really well from the stroke, but my brain it's away with the fairies, seriously. And I say and do a bit. I sometimes say and do things, and when it comes out of my mouth, I wish it hadn't. It's a kind of disinhibition. And the other thing is, which Mick said about Angie, is almost all of the people where we go, this is a feature of almost all of the different types of disorder, that we become very disinhibited and emotional. And so I get Mick and Angie up for a dance, mostly because I like to dance with Ange. So I haven't got a wife of my own anymore. I keep licking everybody else's. And that can be a problem. And do you know you could probably get arrested for some of the things I do? So form an orderly queue. We'll have a hug. I'm very good at hugging, aren't I? I hug everybody. I'm a bugger for it. I really am. I'm a bit face blind. So if I walk past you in the street, it's not because I don't like you. It's because I don't recognise you anymore. What else can I say? You saw on the film about a bloke with a motorbike. I've always been a biker, and I have a difficulty now with balance because I've got a stick and what have you. So I've got a motorbike with a sidecar, and I strap the stick to the side. I used to strap the bloody wheelchair to it when I first started. And because you can't fall off a sidecar, I poodle around on that. And so I keep doing that because it helps me to stay driving. And I had a problem with driving just recently. You have to notify the DVLA, and they stopped me from driving, and they wanted to send me all kinds of papers and questionnaires. Couldn't do it. Had to get help. And but I am now back driving. And so there's something about when information hits my brain at 50 miles an hour or more, that seems to be good for me. And Young Dementia UK have got a patron, and she's a proper handful too. Her name, Susan Greenfield. She's Baroness Professor Susan Greenfield, and she's a proper handful too. And she gets herself into all kinds of scrapes. But her field is neuroplasticity. And there's an emerging body of evidence that says that this kind of huge cognitive reserve of all the little brain cells sitting there, 70% of them, we don't direct them. They operate without our conscious control. And when you start making so singing is good for this, learning songs, learning languages, keep driving, keep pushing, do something every day, which as Mick and Angie said, you get up every day and you've got to have something to get up for. So doing stuff. So her field of study says that there's a body of evidence that says that keeps us going. And Anna and myself know several of the people who are on that film who have somehow seemed to arrest symptom progression and even learn new things. So I'm learning Hungarian now, and if I was giving you a good night cuddle, I would say Jó napot kívánok. Are you Hungarian? Yeah, wonderful. Well, I've got a friend who's Hungarian. Her name's Ildiko. She used to look after me, but she's now a student at Brookes University. And when I was saying good night to her, she taught me to have a cuddle because she's lovely, and I can't resist her. And she taught me to say "Sepamokat kinchem" because she's younger than me, so that's what I used to say to her. Have I got that right?
I'm a Manchester girl. I just have a friend who's Hungarian.
Ah, right. Oh.
So it's things like szeretlek.
Szeretlek. Nagyon szeretlek. That means I really, really love you. So I started by telling you I'm a proper handful of us. And I think that something that happens is that we sort of somehow become more so. So I was always a bit of a handful, even as a youngster, But now I'm Trouble. Trouble is my middle name. Wherever I go, it happens. We'll wind up now.
I was just thinking that I know that people had. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear. I know that people had questions, and I remember the last time we came to Brookes to talk, and Larry, you were there. You were asked what helps you. What would you like the health professionals to do differently or to do that would make your life easier? Right. And I think that's quite a useful question.
Yeah. So I had quite several spells in hospital, and one of the things that happens when you've got dementia is it's possible to become a very non-compliant patient because you forget to take bloody medication. And another thing is that when health crises arise, don't know what to do with them or what to do about them. So my carer at the time, Jesse, he called in the paramedics 3 or 4 times, blues and twos, rushed me off to hospital, and I had surgery and all sorts of things. I woke up one morning with one of the young dementia advisors called Emmeline sitting on the end of my bed, and she said, "You've been proper poorly," she said. So I had lots of surgery, and an acute admission in hospital, especially if it's an emergency one, for somebody like me, is the most disorienting, confusing, upsetting. I got very agitated, and when somebody like me gets agitated, there's really nothing that you can do because of the processing difficulty. So you can tell me stuff, but if I'm emotionally engaged in my head, that's where it stays for a while. I don't get it anymore. And the other thing, there's lots of things actually, in hospital, so the nurses were very, very busy because I was on a ward with loads of old biffs like me. They were very, very busy. And so what happened in this hospital was that if people were calling out or agitated, or that they would ask the consultant to prescribe something, and they gave me something called haloperidol. Bloody deadly. You wouldn't want to have it, you know, and please don't arrange for anybody else to have it, especially if they've got dementia, because that knocked me sideways. It's one of the effects is that it sort of suppresses things, dampens things down, and it nearly Parkinsonised me. I was nearly paralysed with the stuff. The dose they gave me was tremendous, and so it's very tempting if you're on a very busy ward and people are calling out, you know, to just want to handle that, calm them down and what have you. Well, haloperidol for somebody with dementia, my type of dementia, is a vascular type of dementia, just not the right thing. When I had anaesthetics for surgery, the recovery part of it went seriously wrong because my brain was still trying to work out surgery is very invasive. Things go on in your body, they're cutting and slicing and dicing and what have you. They completely altered my plumbing. The brain knew that something was going on, but because of the fact that I can't process and I was anaesthetised, when I came to, I needed a lot of attention and help, and the recovery took a really long time. Please make sure that my nails get cut. You know, I was in hospital bed and I kept trying to kick the covers off the bottom of my feet because I was getting ingrown toenails because I'd been there that long. Nobody had ever cut my nails, you know, or even thought that they needed cutting, and my feet were getting painful. Please make sure that my oral hygiene and dentistry and everything like that gets attended to, because I was in hospital that long and I didn't have anybody doing personal cares. They would make my bed, I changed my pull-up pants, my tenor pants and things like that, and give me a bottle at night and all that sort of stuff. But nobody thought to make sure that I was brushing my teeth, so I started to get a toothache, and when anybody came near me, I batted them away. So they thought that was aggressive, what's the word for that behaviour? Yeah, agitated behaviour, and just increased the dose of haloperidol, which is no good for toothache, I can tell you. It doesn't do a bloody thing for toothache. That's it. You've heard enough from me.
Well, maybe not, but we also ought to open it up for questions.
Angie and Mick need to come up, don't they?
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Why
come
don't
on,
you come on?
Because you can ask us anything. We'll have a go, won't we?
Yeah.
We'll have a go.
Just to give you guys 1 or 2 minutes to think up your questions or finish them off, can we have a round of applause, please? Okay, questions, please. Nice and loud with the microphone, it's not.
Hi, Ricky. Microphone's put me off, sorry. My gran also has dementia. I find that she can also be very affectionate and very emotional. And sometimes that can be quite challenging for her and for us as well, especially when it's somebody that she doesn't know and hasn't met before. So I was just wondering how you managed to deal with that, how you managed to have conversations about that, and whether there's anything as health professionals you can do to help.
Don't give them any money. They like to give it to the beggars in the street. No, that we've started. It's emotion. With somebody playing the guitar really nicely, and so should we give them some? I've had to stitch your pockets up now. I haven't really, but no, that can happen. That's how much emotion's getting. She's becoming very emotional, and as I said, she loves everybody.
But it's also about disinhibition, isn't it?
Yes.
And actually, that's quite nice.
It is.
Yeah.
What other lecture have you been singing in? Not many, I guess.
No.
It's a positive.
What I'd say about it is listening. So it's very difficult when you're on the ward. It's very difficult if you're an allied health professional and your time is rationed, or if you're a frontline nurse. That's very, very difficult. But listening really helps. And actually, crying is a kind of recovery process. I think that, so I do cry. I cry openly, and I get a lump in my throat and the water behind my eyes. Just let it happen, really. It's not. I think we have a confusion in our society, especially in England, which is a very uptight place, that if you express your emotions, there's something wrong with you. And there isn't. I think that crying helps me to get, I don't know, something happens. A sort of discharge of emotion is, for me, often expressed through crying. And it's not hurting me to cry. It's actually helping me if you let me. And come and hold me. I'll cry some more.
One of the things Angie tends to do sometimes is just go quiet altogether.
Yeah.
I mean, we speak together when we can have conversations and that, but she can go quiet. If she's got something, it takes her a little while to explain what's up. But sometimes if you're too close to somebody and the emotions are getting too loving, then you've got to walk away from it. Especially from strangers, as you said, really. You just walk away from it and then explain why.
The other emotion that comes up a lot is fear. Because I get frightened, and I get so frightened that I'm shaking. And I think that we misunderstand that as well. And that if somebody's doing that, you kind of feel like it's something you ought to do something about. But I personally think let it take its course. But it is difficult. How many people have got a direct connection, family members or people who you know? Well, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. So what you've experienced, and thank you for saying about it, is very common, not knowing what to do.
I guess an extension of that question and that discussion from the health professional's point of view, there's a conversation to be had about therapeutic relationships. There's a conversation to be had about therapeutic touch. Engaging, making sure that the individual is at the centre of the care that's delivered. But also agreeing as a team, let's say within an acute hospital ward, if there's someone who is very, very appropriately trying to hug or cuddle or things, how do we manage that as a team? And that's something to pick up in the early stages and discuss with the relatives and the friends of the individual to make sure that that's all dealt with in an appropriate way. There's no single answer to that, there is there?
No. About appropriate, can I say something about that?
Yeah.
But very briefly then. So I think in your professional development and education, I think that there's a tendency in Britain, anyway, to teach you not to take it personally, not to get involved, don't get engaged. You're a professional, you're doing a professional job, and it's what we're after is quality. Do your job in a quality way. Well, for people like me, I actually want you to be inappropriate. I do. I want you to take me personally. I want you to care about me as a person, because I'm still a human being, and to have a relationship with me. And I don't want you to take your troubles home, and I don't want you to get stressed about it. But I do want you to ignore what your teachers tell you, actually. I want you to be human. Please be human.
Just got another question here.
But with that, they tell us to do person-centred care.
Yes.
We find that one of our patients doesn't, like, maybe boundaries a bit different with them, or not so much the boundaries, obviously we still have a patient, but you might be able to banter a bit more with some patients because it might be better for them. So trying to move away from that in lectures anyway, I think. When you are scared of hospital, because hospital, I've worked in situations where I've had dementia patients be very scared. Is there anything we can do to help? Because if we just walk away in a really disorienting environment, it's not really helping.
No.
So is there anything we can do?
It's about time. So you have tremendous time pressures. And, of course, you're line managed in a hospital. You're line managed to death, virtually. It's a very hierarchical, bureaucratic sort of thing. And there's lots of things that you have to give your time to, like handing over and writing up and reading notes and all that sort of stuff. It takes you away from the patient. When somebody's scared, the most reassuring thing you can do is just be with them for a bit. Whatever you say to them to reassure them may not be understood, but the fact that you're present helps.
Yeah, just because people have got dementia doesn't mean they're brain dead, which some people might think that. Excuse me saying it like that. They need stimulation. They need things to make their minds work. It's like Angie with her dancing and her music and her Sudoku and doing things. You know, even if you're laying in bed, you know, you can do things in bed. You can do Sudoku in bed, or art, or anything, colours, anything to stimulate the mind.
Have you ever used knowing me cards in hospital? So my auntie has one, so when she goes into hospital, we filled out with her help a form that tells her everything from what makes her scared to how it calms her down to foods she might like or not like. And that way, if she ever does end up in hospital anywhere, she takes it in with her, so that, you know, if I was working with you and you were scared and you couldn't sort of communicate to me why you were scared, that might be, the trigger might be on your card to help. Have you ever used those? Or?
Yeah, Alzheimer's Society give them away, and you can download them, and it is like a little form, and you can have it at the front of your notes. What I would say about that is especially useful when people lose words. So when I get frightened and stressed, words fall off the edge of me and I don't know where they are, and I spend a lot of time word searching, circumlocution they call it, and also it goes round and round my brain, and that kind of constantly thinking, worrying away at a particular thing. So for example, if I've lost a word and I can't tell you what it is, that bothers me, and it'll keep me awake at night. So I might have a really bad night simply because I've got so stressed that I can't get it out.
I think those books are really helpful, but they only work if the people read them.
Yeah.
And the staff is often so busy that gets forgotten. So yes, they're great.
Is anybody in doing social care, or are you all nurses? Nurses, okay.
There was a question over there, I think.
I was just going to ask, in terms of what there is available for you in the community,
Bugger all.
what do you think has been the best help to you?
That's why I asked if anybody was doing social care. This is a condition which is progressive, ultimately fatal, for which there are no remedies and no medicines that work for everybody. There are some medicines that do help a little bit, but they don't work for me. I don't think they work for...
There isn't anything.
There's nothing. No. So what needs to happen is a social care prescription. That what you need to put in is social care and socialising, normalising, so that we get to be in an environment where we feel like we're just the same as everybody else. And so there's bugger all. The answer to your question is, what is there out there? Very little, and lots of that. I live in sheltered housing. I'm currently having a bit of a difficulty, which I discussed with Anna. Somebody put horse shit through my letterbox. So my behaviour is a bit off sometimes. I'm not normally vexatious, angry, ranty or anything like that, at least not normally. But I live in sheltered housing. There's no services in the sheltered housing. We used to have a warden. That's been cut. The warden's apartment has been turned into another apartment. We've got a residence lounge but no staff. We've got a residence kitchen, no staff. We've got a residence bathroom with a bath hoist for frail elderly people who prefer to have a bath than a shower. It's turned off because we've got nobody insured to operate it. All the services have been stripped out at the same time as the budgets for social care, so social care assessment and an indicative budget, that's all been cut to buggery. So there's no chance that you get anybody paid to help you. If you're really frail and elderly, significant, substantial and, what's the other words? Substantial and, so it means when you're dying. What's that word? Critical and substantial needs, okay, then you might get an agency carer. And I did have, when I came out of hospital, I had an agency carer who used to come in the morning, phone in, say that she was there, make a cup of tea, sort me out, sort of make me hygienic, bugger off. I get another one to try and put me to bed at 5 o'clock at night. Ridiculous. And it was 15-minute calls. I was on 15-minute calls, which is only just about enough time to have a cup of tea and get hygienic, but nothing to stimulate the mind. And I went stir crazy. I went absolutely stir crazy.
Okay. I know that there's another question at the front here, and I also know that the batteries on the camera over here might run out in a little while. We're coming just past 11 o'clock, but if people are still happy to stay and still happy to talk, I'm happy. I don't think anyone's coming in here. I just wondered if there are any questions from the children's nurses in the room, specifically in relation to the question about kind of grandchildren and how they're affected and things. Did anyone have any questions from the children's nursing field? Put you in the spotlight now.
What do you tell children? You know, big question. What do you tell children and how do you tell them? So my children were young, you know. Anna's met my youngest boy, who's now a big lad, but when you first met him, he was pushing me around in a wheelchair at 13. What do you tell them and how do you explain it? Because really what ultimately they need to know is that I'm proper poorly and I'm going to peg out before I should do. How do you tell them that?
Are there any other questions in the room? I know there was one here. Is everyone else quite happy? Okay, cool.
Mine is actually about children. So, you know, when you were in hospital or you have been, have your children and grandchildren come to visit you?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, close.
Have they come to visit you?
Yeah.
What was their reaction to?
My daughter got very agitated and upset and angry, and subsequently took an overdose. So she survived, and her liver survived. Thank goodness for that. But she felt that guilty for all the times that she'd been upset with me or irritated or impatient, and she felt awful about herself, and that sort of self-loathing led to a real crisis for her. And so she was only 15.
Do you feel like there was support for your family when you were done?
No, there's a thing called CAMS, the CAMS team had such a long waiting list that she was 19 before she got seen. So 4 years struggling by herself, really. That's my Lizzie.
So that would be something that would definitely need to be addressed for.
Yeah, it's not within the field of nursing very much, though, is it? It's a separate thing in the mental health system. It's so under-resourced.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question, by the way, and I appreciate you for asking it.
I wonder if Angie and Mick have any other things that they want to say, or anything, kind of any closing comments?
No, it's been really nice to see you all.
Yeah. Are they lovely? Oh, lovely.
And this is particularly good. Mick and Angie haven't done this sort of presentation before, and Angie's very nervous, so I think you've done fantastically well. I don't need to say anything else, just we had a piece of work where people were just asked to say what did they want to say about dementia. And this is Joyce who spoke in the film as well. And Joy, sorry. And I just think it's a great line. So leave you with that. Our website is at the bottom, so do look us up. We've got lots of information on there. And please, we would love you to join the Young Dementia Network. You can really contribute to that, as well as learn from it. So,
if you're looking for volunteering,
come dancing tonight.
Come dancing. No, seriously, it's a giggle, isn't it?
It is.
It's a proper. It's in Cassington Village Hall. And it starts at 7:30. Yeah.
Cost a £5.
Cost a £5. Well, if you're volunteering, you don't pay a £5.
Ladies and gents, Mick, Angie, Larry.